Hi everyone. This is something from the region where we're gonna talk about. It is from my dear Indian colleague, ex-colleague. Wow, lots of dragonflies. From the region. He is a descendant of those colonial officers and a Vaishnavite. Om Namo Narayana. Om Namo Narayana. Om Namo Narayana. We used to talk a lot about history, and so that was a lot of fun. And today we are going to continue to talk about history. He probably has read this book, and one of our other colleagues, she also taught in this region. She didn't specialize in ecology, but she did teach broadly in general, and she actually finished her degree. So shout out to Ms. Mo, who finished her degree. Barely 10 months after the settlement where the British over the Burigumar Dwar, there were reports of fresh outrages on British subjects by marauders under Bhutanese protection in the Bijni and Kaling Dwars. So these are the rivers I drew today. Today we are in Shravana Nakshatra, so it's good time to listen to each other, music or otherwise. So we have India here, Kalimpong, rich traders here, and then we have Bhutan with a lot of rivers. So actually, I learned Bhutanese officials did not have to live in the watery areas, but they did get tax from the people who managed the dwars. So like these are very fertile lands. Like the further south you go, the further ocean stuff you get. Okay, barely 10 months after the settlement with the British over the Burigumar Dwar, there were fresh reports of outrages on British subjects by marauders under Bhutanese protection in Bijni and Kaling Dwars. In May 1835, F. Jenkins, the British agent, reported some 50 armed men entering British territory from the Bijni Dwar and carrying off 10 people. The British responded by sending a small detachment of infantry, but this only provoked more incursions, and a total of some 22 people were said to have been carried away in the area alone. The British stormed the Bhutanese stockade and captured the Drungpa official responsible for the Bijni Dwar. They rescued some of the captives, while others were released by the Bhutanese officers, but many had already been taken northward to be enslaved by officials. The Drungpa even confessed that some of the captives were sent as presents to the Tongsa Punlup. I think we have Tongsa here. Yep. Tongsa is right here. All the big cities are on the west side, like California. Okay. The British had scarcely repulsed the incursions in Bijni when new outrages were committed in the Darang district from the Kaling Dwar in November 1835. This was followed by a major raid into the flourishing district of Kamrup from the Banskar Dwar in January 1836. As usual, most of the depredations were perpetrated by lawless thugs operating under the clandestine protection of and with the partial benefit to the delinquent local chieftains. The local officers managing the dwars perhaps thought they could be allowed because the Bhutanese government was situated many weeks away from them and was itself seriously encumbered by internal strife, and the British were reluctant to use any force which could jeopardize their relationship with Bhutan. The situation may have seemed favorable for quick amassment of wealth for these individuals. The British were not totally blameless, as their accounts may have us believe. On their part, they exacerbated the situation by oppressing the people in the Dwar for money, and this provoked more marauding of their subjects. We get a glimpse of this in an admission by F. Jenkins. Difficulties with Bhutan, the British agent wrote, were in some measure occasioned by the officers who held charge in our part. Unfortunately, we do not have any surviving records from the Bhutanese officers or their Indian representatives serving in Dwars, giving their accounts of the conflict to counterbalance the one sided view we have from the British sources. It is very plausible that the British contributed their share in stirring the problems, as it was in their interest to gain full control of the highly productive tract of Dwars. We see their inclination to take over the Dwars for both its economic value and smooth administration of their frontier districts. The Court of Directors in London even held the view that the Dwars were an integral part of Assam and thus a possession of the British government. So I guess this part was British India. Bangladesh was also part of British. And then we have Burma here, China, Tibet here. At any rate, the British agent decided to show a more robust response to the fresh raids into the Darang and Kamrup districts, although any overture to tackle the problem with full force was still resisted by the Governor General with the fear of provoking Bhutan into a full conflict. By now, the new Assam Corps had been formed, mainly from local recruits who were familiar with the hostile terrain and unhealthy climate of the Dwars, with a specific aim to deal effectively with the troubles along the tracks. With 16 men from the new corps, Captain Mathi marched into the Kaling Dwar and forced the local officer appointed by Bhutan to surrender some 12 perpetrators. Soon after this, the British agent who dispatched a detachment of Assamese troops under Captain Bogle. By the way, it's Bogle. I was saying Bogle. I think I'm like Marathi somewhere in here. Okay, to the Banska Dwar to redress the depredations committed from there. The detachment crossed the border on 14th February, Valentine's Day, 1836. And